The dreary air of the wilderness was damp. Behind the old house out in the woods laid a corpse that had been that way for quite little time. Nearby, a woman could be found leaving the grounds. Her body was unwell, with a clearly broken arm, injured leg, and a large cut on her side. Despite these injuries, she was unbothered as she left the dewy grounds. As day broke, newly promoted head detective James Straven arrived at the police station. Strolling through the corridors, he noticed how focused his coworkers were. His associates, Detectives Parker and Leo, had a large web of images and clippings strewn together with multiple colorful pieces of string kept on their bulletin boards. Straven stood still for a moment, hoping to understand what the other detectives were trying to piece together. Alas, the chief of police scolded him for doing nothing and had him get over to his desk. Straven discovered a new case file freshly sat on his desk. He sat his belongings down beside the chair, waiting to open the envelope. However, before he opened it, Straven knew what the contents inside would be. The only other time this had ever happened, those around him seeming so dedicated and so focused, was the last time there was a new murder in the case that had been unsolved in 14 years. With the frequent amount of new additions to the case, this new file showing up randomly out of the blue must have been tied to it. Straven opened the file, revealing that it was exactly as he had feared. Soon after pinning up all he could, Straven finally began to process what information was there. All of the previous bodies had been left near Rock Castle, the old building near the river. He decided to leave for the grounds at once. Upon arrival, the cool and dry air felt unnatural. Straven knew from the file that the body had been found just this morning, but it was damp and the grass was dewy. There was no possible way that the moisture in the air could just disappear so quickly. There were no signs of a struggle or fight here, no disturbances in the usually soft grass, nor any marks on any trees. On Straven's return to the police department, he looked into the same things he had seen prior. For each murder, the grass consistently had been wet. As he learned this, Straven decided that he would stake out the Rock Castle grounds each and every night. No matter how long it would take, he would stay out there to save a life. Throughout the first night, nothing abnormal happened. The second, third, and fourth went similarly. However, on the fifth night, a great fog came into the area. Straven became cautious, both simultaneously hoping that nothing would happen, but believing that something had already begun. With his view now limited, the detective left his vehicle, entering into the ominous presence before him. The damp air felt cool on his face, but as he ventured near the epicenter of it all, the air around Straven felt frozen. He peered in and saw two figures, but one of them was already on the ground, with the other eerily limping around it. Straven watched as the person knelt down over the corpse, crying out a chant, believing this to be his only opportunity to help. Straven bolted towards the suspect, the air feeling more and more like jelly until he got to them. The body turned to him, but not the body on the ground. Straven stood in shock as he realized the person he thought was standing over the body on the ground was actually a dead body itself. It leaned out to him and shouted. The corpse had a tinge of glowing green eyes, staring deep into his soul. With a moan, the detective slumped down onto the ground, his eyes glowing the same color as the demon that was alive in front of him. The demon finally took over him. With this never happening before, the demon forcing its soul into the living. Through the struggle, the body of Detective James Straven fell to the ground. The mist around him dissipated and returned in quick succession. Returning to consciousness, Straven's eyes shot open, his eyes flickering a bright, glowing green. The detective returned to his vehicle. In his deadly wake, the historic rock castle was left with two corpses, and soon more to come.